All right, so it's election day here in the United States of America. We're down to two choices, and that's technically untrue. We have more than two choices, but only two choices really matter in this race. And yet, there are still people who are undecided. The polls are running right now, and people still don't know who they're going to vote for, right? You know why? Because people are afraid of making the wrong choice. Even though it's just two, people are still afraid of making the wrong choice. And the thing is, that is human nature, okay? And so I want you to think about that as you're making your pricing and your product offering for your clients. And whatever you do for your clients, keep in mind, people don't like a lot of choices. They want you to narrow down the choices to one or two or three things and help them make a choice. They don't like a lot of choices, right? They want choices. They want to make sure that those choices are available. I think every voter appreciates the fact that there are more than two choices that they technically could choose, but they're not, because they don't want to do a bunch of thinking. I've had research that's extra candidate, potentially throw their vote away. You get what I'm saying? Most people don't want to have a ton of choices. They want two or three, right? So they want choice, but they don't want a lot of it because they don't want to think. They want to have someone kind of do some of the screening for them and then present two or three things, right? And you're going to use that for your business and your venture, okay? You're going to, if you offer a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of different sizes, a whole bunch of different colors, what I want you to do, narrow those choices down to maybe two or three things, right? That way, whatever thing they choose is beneficial to you and it's beneficial to them. And it speeds up everything. If there's only two or three options, they're going to make a decision faster, which means you get paid faster, which means you can be profitable faster, less time per interaction, less time per client, per customer, back and forth. Like, what does this do? What does that do, right? If they're going to ask you questions anyway, then why not have those questions be about two or three options versus 19 options, okay? Because truthfully, the more options you give somebody, the more they're going to get that fear of making the wrong choice is going to kick in, and they're going to end up choosing the cheapest, easiest thing just so they can leave, okay? And that's not good for you because they would have bought something more maybe if you had packaged it in a way that solves their problem, right? So I'm going to give you a prime example. I was at an event and I was selling pictures at the event. So, I had a whole bunch of different sizes, like 5x7s, 4x6, 8x10s. And then you could do a group, you could do an individual, you could do like 3 people, you could do 4 people. And I made this huge long list, this menu, this a la carte menu of how you could buy pictures from me. And so people had complimented my pictures in the past. I felt like this was going to go very well, right? So I made this list. I put it up on my little booth, and I'm waiting for people to stand in line and, and pay for it. And sure enough, people stood in line. Maybe I got like 12 people in line, and they were excited about buying the pictures. The first person looked at the menu and looked at it some more. And then they were like, what's the difference between a 4x6 and a 5x7? And I was like, well, one's a little bit bigger. And I was like, okay. And then I tried to dig around and find like an example. And then so she said, okay, that's good. Well, can I get one with me? And I mean, it just had all these questions, right? It had all these questions. It's back and forth. It was this long conversation about what she could potentially buy from me. And then what ended up happening is like someone behind her coughed or like said something like, hurry up. And so she was like, just give me the smallest one. Give me the smallest one. And the smallest one was the cheapest one. It was like $5. Well, it was maybe $9, but it was the cheapest thing. She's like, can I just get this one thing? She bought it and she left. So for all that back and forth dialogue that took about 2 to 3 minutes, she ended up buying the cheapest thing because it was taking too long. And she felt pressure from the people behind her. That's what happened for the next client and the next client. And by this time, I'm 7 people into the line. The 7th person is now at the front. And they've been waiting so long that they don't want to talk about what's on the option. They just wanted the cheapest thing to hurry up and speed up the transaction and get out of there. So I had a whole line of people who ended up all buying realistically the cheapest thing. I mean, a few of them bought bigger stuff, but for the most part, they all bought the quickest, cheapest thing, which is like one thing, and they were gone. And so I went home and talked to my girlfriend, and she was like, "How'd it go?" And I'm like, it wasn't that good." She's like, "Why not?" I said, "Because everybody had a whole bunch of questions and kept asking questions about the menu, even though it was right there, plain as day in English." She's like, "Let me see it." So I showed her the list, and she was like, "There's a lot." I'm like, "What you mean it's a lot?" She's like, "It's a lot of words." I'm like, "Well, how are some people going to know exactly what I sell?" She said, "I don't know, but group them together or do something, because this is just like visually overwhelming. Like I have more questions that, I was like, I had to be honest. Like she was right. She had a point. It was visually overwhelming. In my pursuit of being thorough, I had made this massively confusing mess of a menu. And so what I did is I went back and I had to like make it shorter. My goal was to make that list and cut it in half. And so what I did is I looked at what people bought, and I realized people didn't buy like one size. So I have selling 3 sizes. I just eliminated one size. Then I looked at how people were buying the different groups. Like sometimes they would buy like 2 small ones, or 2 4x6s, or like an 8x6 and a 4x6, or 8x10 and a 4x6, but they tended not to buy 2 8x10s. It was either 2 4x6s or an 8x10 and a 4x6. I say all that to say, because they kept buying that same combination over and over again, I just went ahead and just packaged them that way. So one package was an 8x10 and a 4x6, and one package was a 4x6 and another 4x6, right? Just 2 of them. So the next time I had that event, instead of having this huge long list, I just had 2 things. 2 packages. And I still had the list, but I took out one of the sizes and I made it really like smaller print. When I tell you, I sold over $5,000 over a Saturday and Sunday, because when people came to the front of the line, it was only 2 choices that were big in print. And they were like, "Yeah, give me the first package. Give me package number 2, combo number 1, combo number 2. And they would just say that. And so when people would say it out loud, they would see the picture, the people behind could see that the line was moving fast. Like, I don't know if you've ever been in like a fast food place where you're in the drive-through and you see the drive-through lane is moving. Even if it's wrapped around the building, you'll get in line because you know it's moving fast. And so that's what was happening. Like, I was serving the clients, they would get there, they only had 2 choices realistically. They chose one of the choices, they paid, they got out of line, and the line was just moving fast. And I was able to get a whole bunch of customers. And there were people who were kind of hanging back to see if they should get in line. And when they saw that it was moving, they jumped in line, bought their stuff, and then just all weekend, we were just busy. So I say all that to say that it was better for me to reduce the amount of choices versus trying to be thorough. My personality, I like being fully transparent. And so I think that's what made me think about it from a standpoint of like including everything. I wanted to be honest and thorough and transparent, but I forgot about the client experience. I didn't consider the location and the fact that we're in this lobby and there's a whole bunch of people and it's getting hot and people don't want to wait around a long time. They don't want to have all these conversations. They just want to get in and get out. And I didn't realize that. And so when I started thinking more from the customer's perspective, I limited the choices. I made it easier to choose something. I pre-packaged something that I knew was already popular. And it worked for everybody. I made more money. The customers were in and out. I didn't change the prices. I just kind of packaged them together to make it easier to buy. And then I ended up selling like thousands of dollars in 2 days. And because of that, since I was so successful, the next time I brought some helpers, I brought some more stuff and had more lines, more capability to sell. And the next time I did 7,000. So you see what I'm saying, right? But the first time I did it, when I was trying to be honest and transparent and have all that huge long list with all those words, I struggled because everything was it was confusing. And I wasn't trying to be confusing. I was trying to be thorough, but sometimes it's better to narrow down your choices so your customer doesn't have to do a bunch of thinking, doesn't have to ask a bunch of questions, right? So for you, realistically, without knowing what type of business you have, if you can offer them like 2 choices or 3 at the most, like a good, better, best, right? The good is something that's cheapest. Let them at least try out your service to see what you do. And it's not ideal, but it's not a waste of your time, right? You still could make some money doing that. And then the better and the best, of course, allow you to really serve your client. It's a win-win for them. They get a good product. Whatever time you spent on making that, is profitable. You get what I'm saying? So just keep that in mind, right? Limit their choices. Everything gets better. The customer interactions go down. You don't have to spend a lot of time explaining things, right? There's only two or three options to talk about. And so they just need to make a decision. And because people naturally try to avoid making choices, even when there's just 2, keep that in mind before you give them a whole list of things to potentially buy, right? Tell them how to use your service. Package your service in a way that does some of the screening and the thinking for them so they don't have to think. All right? Y'all take it easy. And I'm going to watch the news tonight and see what happens with our country. Okay, all right. Y'all have a good day. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.